Hey y'all, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to check out another one of my videos. Today is a super exciting video because I'm going to be sharing with you guys just about everything you need to know about the new DeDe Signature's fruit themed quads. There are 5 of them in the collection: avocado, passion fruit, blueberry, coconut, and then also peaches in this collection. So 5 different palettes to talk about today, and I have so much to share with you guys. We're going to do this eye look together where I use one shade each of these quads to create this eye look. I'm going to give you guys my review as I go along for each one of these quads. We're going to swatch it after that. We're going to talk about some dupes or comparable palettes that you may already have in your collection, and then we're going to finish off this video doing an eye look with each one of these palettes. So I know this video is long, I know it is, but hopefully all this information will be helpful for you guys to determine if you need to pick up any one or all of these little fruit themed quads from DeDe Signature. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. As I said, I wanted to do this look on camera, so let's go ahead and start with that, and then we'll come back here to chat a little bit more about the quads and also swatch them all out on camera with you guys. Okay, so I just primed my eyes with my Lorac Behind the Scenes eyeshadow primer in the Makeup Revolution Conceal and Define. I have noticed with this that a good concealer is necessary. It's not, I shouldn't say necessary, but something I definitely noticed is if I didn't use bases that I knew were really good on my oily eyelids, I would see breakdown throughout the day. It would usually just start to patch off just a little bit right here where my eye is most hooded, and it kind of rubs in that spot. That's where I would see it wear down with something like the Gerard Clean Canvas eye base. So that's why I use these two, and I also do like to let it set a little bit because a tacky base just, I notice, can cause a little bit of issue with blending and whatnot. So I'm gonna let that sit for a minute, and we can go ahead and pick the shadows because, as I said in the intro, I'm gonna be using all 5 of them, and I want to use one from each of them. And I thought about just like randomly selecting it palette bingo style from each of them, but I decided I wanted to pick my favorite shade from each of the quads, like the shade that when I open it up initially, that shade just jumps out to me. We'll do that and we'll see what we get, because I think that would be fun to use my favorite shade from each of them. So let's just go ahead and get into it while my eye primer sets. Let's take the green palette, which is the Avocado palette. It is my favorite, and you guys know this shade jumps out to me so much, and I'm going to swatch it out just so we can see the color story kind of unfold here. I'm just going to swatch it there on my knuckles, which means it's not the best swatch, but it's a swatch. Okay, now let's grab the Passion Fruit. This one, when I open it up, you guys should not be surprised. There's actually a lot in here that I really do like, but I love the orange. That orange just jumped out to me so much. The shimmers in here are also really beautiful, but this matte, this orange matte, is so pretty. And I haven't really thought about how all these look together, so it'll be a little bit of a challenge in that respect that I haven't like pre-planned my look. I just know that there is those shades in all of these quads that just jump out to me, and I just drool over how beautiful they are. Next, we're gonna go to the Blueberry palette, and this one, as much as I love everything about this shade right here is something special. Like, it's just so beautiful. I love it. Every time I open it, this is the palette, or this is the shadow that I just zero in on. It's so beautiful. It's more of a sheer formula, but if you build it up or layer it on top of something, moving on, let's go to the peach, and this one, when I open up, can you guess what I am zeroed in on? The one that attracted me the most and that I was most excited to play with was the yellow, because it is that mustard yellow that I really do enjoy. So I'm going to be picking that one. That shimmer is also really beautiful. It's that more sheerish, but has almost a duochrome. I forget if they are duochromes. I don't think they're multichromes. I'm not good at detecting that, but it's definitely a shift that you can see when you swatch them. But anyway, there is where we're going. So last up we have the Coconut palette, which looks like this. And this one is a little bit harder. The gold is really pretty, but it's not the gold, but like the shimmer is really beautiful, but it's not, I guess it's the one that jumps out to me the most, so we should do it for that purposes. So there is that one. I don't think you can see the shift, but it has like a lime green shift to it. I'm not sure. This is an interesting color story. This is very interesting. Should I allow myself to grab another one? Because I don't have anything to deepen up. We'll see how it goes. I may allow myself to pick one more of these shadows to use on my eyes, just because I do like to deepen it up and like to, you know, smoke it out. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started and put these on my eyes, and then as we go through, as I use each of the quad, I will give you guys my review of those quads, or of the quad that I'm using. Okay, so I think I have figured out what I'm doing for the mattes. I'm going to start with the yellow in my inner corner area of my crease, work it up to the orange, and then blend it out on the outer edge with this green, and I might tap in to just a little bit of this darker green to pack on the outer corner. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump into that first yellow shade, which is the Peach palette, or the Peach quad. And this quad, if I had to pick my least favorite, it would be this, simply because it is such a soft palette. like the colors are just so soft. There's nothing in here that could deepen it up. I feel like if this palette, maybe one of these pinks had been a very deep pink, then I think it might have scored higher because, or like scored higher, but you know, just been a little bit more of a favorite of mine than it ended up being, just because that shimmer is absolutely beautiful. Like it's so gorgeous, but it's just, I couldn't get any depth with it. They were very pretty wash of color looks, but honestly, like when we're talking about building up shadows, it, you know, it layers on top of itself really nicely, and I'm able to get the intensity that like I want and that I kind of see in the pan on my eyes, so I'm happy with that. This shadow really had a hard time even showing up on my skin because it is so very fair. Like I really had to dig in there and I really had to pack it on to really see it. This shimmer is absolutely beautiful. Like it has such a gorgeous shift to it, especially if you're in those kind of wash up color. You don't want anything too crazy, but you like something very shiny and almost wet looking on your eyes. This will give that effect to you without adding too much color. So if you like that kind of like just wet with no color, you'll like this, but for me, it's definitely just a companion palette. Okay, moving on to the Passion Fruit. This is a really fun quad. This is a quad that got me like creative. I feel like that's the biggest thing I can say for it, is because the color story is just so interesting. There's 2 mattes, 2 shimmers. It just made me really kind of step outside the box and really think to kind of see how creative I could be. I do feel like this orange, while it looks super neon in the pan, I feel like as I work with it, as I blend it out, it doesn't quite give me that neonness that I see in the pan on my eyes in person. I feel like maybe right now on the screen it looks pretty intense, but in person, especially after I've kind of completed the look, I just feel like it's not as intense. I mean, and you can layer it on and really pack it on, but I feel like to get the most out of it, I kind of have to do this where I blend it out, like how it looks, and then I go over and tap on and really just kind of place on the orange instead of really being able to blend and just see the intensity that I like. So it's definitely something, I don't know, that's not ideal for me, but I mean, if you're someone who doesn't like super duper neon shadows, then you probably won't be bothered by it. But it's just something I noticed, especially when you work with the purples in the pan. The purples really tone down the orange so that it doesn't show up as intense. I'll be curious to see in this look if it's a lot more vibrant than I'd done in my previous 2 looks using this. I forget if I mentioned it already, but I've done 2 looks each with these quads so far. But I'll be curious to see if I'm able to get a lot more intensity. So there we go. As a whole quad, I really do enjoy this. Like I said, this one's very sheer, but this one is very like opaque, and look at that. Look at that. It's so beautiful. It's so pigmented and it's got so much color to it. So it's a very fun quad. I feel like I was very creative with the looks that I got with it, and I do really like it. But anyway, let's move on to the green in here, the Avocado palette. You guys know it's just kind of like a bias at this point, but because it's green, I was very attracted to this palette and I had a really great time with this palette. This green also, I feel like shows up a little bit lighter maybe as you're working with it and, you know, blending it out. But I still think, I feel like it was a little bit more of like what I was looking for, and like the end results were a little bit more of what I had wanted than with the orange, so I wasn't as mad at it. But it's a nice lime green. It's not quite as like intense and neon-y, but it's a nice green. It's definitely takes one again to kind of build up, but it blends out really nice. That is a, you know, a pro with me saying, you know, it's not, you know, it's a little bit not as intense or whatnot. I can't fault it on the blending out because it blends so easily. So even though it kind of almost shears out a touch than what I see or what I think I see in the pan, it's very easy to work with. The other shades in this palette are very pretty. I like the green shimmer. It's probably, if I had to, you know, talk about all the shimmers and which one was the least, I don't know, special and impressive, I think I would pick that green actually, because it's a nice pretty green. Nothing like crazy wrong with it. Like I think it's beautiful, like look at that. But still a pretty green, and then the dark green and the dark brown were really nice. I think that's what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to put just a little bit on the outer corner, kind of blending it into the light green. I'm going to do the dark green. I know I'm not finishing my sentence there, but I just want a little bit because I was really wanting something dark on my outer corner today. But I also want to say that like blending these on top of each other, I do feel like they're that type of formula that you want to start with the color you want to pop the most, or like the darkest to lightest kind of you know, process when you're doing your eyes, because as you're going to see as I'm packing on the dark color, it's not as dark as if I had put this on a tacky base before the light green went on. Okay, so here is where we are at. I'm going to pause here. Yeah, as you can see, like I feel like I deepened it up really nicely, but also too in using this, I know this dark green is lighter than when I've used it previously. It's just a little bit less intense of a dark green. I just realized I probably should have swapped some colors around because the yellow and the orange don't really, it should be swapped. I don't know why I wasn't thinking, but I just thought yellow to orange to green was the right way. But the color wheel actually has orange to yellow to green, which I should have known. But anyway, we're just gonna keep on trucking because I'm just full of mistakes sometimes, and that's okay. I'm gonna go along with a little bit more orange. I think it's just kind of muddying the orange and the brown a little bit more than I'd like, but I think it'll be fine. I'm going on with a little bit more orange because, again, I just feel like it's a little bit toned down and I'm just wanting to mesh them together, and then all we have left are the shimmers. Okay, so for my lid, I'm not gonna like do anything crazy cutty, but I do want to have a half cut crease, so I'm gonna use the Alamar Primero Primer. Sorry, I butchered it. Okay, I ended up going a little bit more precise. I did use a brush. Now we have the shimmers. I feel like the easiest would be just to do the blue in the inside corner and then this all over the lid, but I want to use that blue just because it's so beautiful. So I'm gonna start with that blue, and I'll probably just pop a little bit of the gold on the center of it and kind of blend around it. So let me grab my brush. I definitely noticed that a very nice flat brush is really good and do more packing motions and like sweeping motions when it comes to this formula. The formula, I would title it as a super shock shadow. Like it has that, like when you press into it, you can actually kind of see it being a little spongy. It's a very interesting formula, but anyway, I just press pretty firmly into the pan to pick some stuff up. And then I place it on top like this, and yeah, it's pretty sheer. You know, let me do that. Let me put this all over because it has a lot of pigment and I want to cover up what's on my lid, and then I'll probably end up swiping a lot of the blue on top. That could be pretty interesting with the brown and the blue. I guess we're gonna find out, so let's put it on. I'll start on this side. So this quad, this is the coconut quad that I'm pulling this out of. This is a really nice quad if you are a neutral fan. When I first saw this launch, I wasn't really interested in it, but since it was sent to me, I did want to go ahead and use it and see how it was, and it's really nice. I feel like it's a nice mix, a nice amount of shadows. Like, it's a really well-rounded palette. If you're someone who likes neutral colors, I think you'll love it because it's got, you know, a white if you want to do brow bone, or if you want to do an all matte, you can put it on the lid. But it has a nice mid-tone brown, a dark brown, and a shimmer, so it's like a 3-in-1. Boom, you can get a really easy, quick eye look. The white is definitely more of a sheer white. I definitely, when I used it in an all matte look on my lid, I put down a base, a white base to really help it pop. But even when I was layering it on, I could tell it wasn't the thickest, I guess, of formulas. It still worked well, but it was just it's not the most pigmented white, I guess. It just felt a little dry. So anyway, there is where we're at. I think that's a really pretty look, but I want to go on with that blue on top. Okay, I'm just gonna clean off that same brush and let's go into the blueberry quad. The blueberry quad is, I feel like I love it and then I don't really love it at the same time. Like, it's a great one and done look if you want a very dark smoky eye, a blue smoky eye, because with this palette I really wish you would have taken one of these blues out and replaced it with a mid-tone blue, because the blues are just so similar. One's a little bit more purple leaning and the other one's more blue leaning, but they're both very dark. So when you're wanting to create a look, I ended up just having to use one of them for my outer corner, and then I would just go lightly to blend it out up into my crease, and I just use that same color as my crease shade. Now you can do that. I was really happy to see that it is so easy and it blends so well that you can easily just use that one dark color and use it for your crease and your outer corner. But as far as, like, I don't know, just like a well-rounded quad in my opinion, I feel like this is going to be something where, you know, if you don't want a very blue, dark, smoky eye, it's going to be a companion palette because you're going to want to bring something else into the palette to allow you to do more things with it than just a dark blue, smoky eye. The shimmers in here are what stands out to me because both shimmers are just so beautiful. Like this dark blue shimmer, the other one, like, look at that. It's just so beautiful. Like, oh my goodness. It's gorgeous. That's the first shimmer I used, that first day I used it, and I did a will I buy it. I can leave it linked up here if you want to see it like in action on my eyes. Yeah, not to say that the mattes aren't any good. One of the mattes has gold in it. You don't see it in any eye looks. I really wished it wasn't in there. So it's just one of those annoying, like, why is it in there? And just makes your face an absolute mess when you're doing your eye look. So yeah, at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and finish my makeup off camera because I want to do liner and then lashes and kind of get a feel for what I want to put on the lower lash line, because I really don't know. But I like how this look turned out even with my mess up. I love the lid with that blue mixed with the brown. I think that's really pretty. But anyway, I'm gonna finish this up on camera just to save time, and then I'll be right back to show you guys the final look. Okay, so this is the finished look. Even though, like, as I was finishing up, I was like, I did the intro, Katie, or I'm gonna do the intro after my makeup's already done. They already know what it looks like. But anyway, here is the completed look. I'm going to stick up close-ups because I really enjoy giving you guys a really up-close look at what I am wearing today and really being able to see how the shadows blend and the textures and how the shimmers look and whatnot. I ended up not going with the black liner. I went in with a green liner, which is from Maya's Cosmetics. And then I just did mascara, my Sky High mascara, and then, oh, and yeah, for my lower lash line, I just ended up taking the lightest green from the Avocado palette and smudging it all under there. And then for my inner corner, I used the shimmer from the Peach palette. So yeah, the inner corner is that really pretty shimmer from the Peach palette, just packed on there. And then, let's see, for my lips, I have the Lime Crime Lip Glaze in Herb. I use this lipstick all the time. I really do enjoy it. But yeah, now that we have talked about my review for each one of these quads, we're gonna dive into the palette that I picked out that could be potential dupes for these quads. I'm not giving you guys these dupes to say like, don't go out and buy DeDe Signature, but I'm giving them more so as just to be helpful to see if you're someone who likes a very curated collection and you like to know, like, do I already have any of those shadows in my collection? That's more so why I like to do these swatches, and I just think it's helpful to see how close they are to other similar palettes, especially when I'm going to purchase something, just to get an idea for color tones and whatnot and hues. I feel like it's very helpful for me to see palette swatch next to palettes that I may already own. So that's my purpose in doing this. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. I have a bunch. I tried to pick very small palettes because I feel like the bigger I go, if I get a rainbow palette, I'm obviously going to find dupes in there. So I tried to go pretty small. I have a couple larger ones, but like I said, I try to keep them small. But anyway, the first thing that made me think of a dupe palette was when I saw the Passionfruit Quad, because it immediately made me think of the one from Midas. This is the Pumpkin Spice Latte Quad, because it also has kind of that purple toned color for the darkest shade and then the oranges. So that's immediately what I thought of. While I think they are very close, you could definitely get similar looks. So that's going to come down to preferences, or if you know what your preferences are when it comes to makeup, if you wouldn't mind having those. But these two are definitely similar and had such a similar color story, so I definitely wanted to share those. But that was the only quad in my collection that I could find in my collection that came anywhere close to the Passionfruit Quad. Moving on, let's go ahead and do the Peach Quad. This one I thought of the Pop Zombie palette. I'm not sure if this is still available, but when I opened this, but definitely when I opened it, I saw the yellow in here, I saw the more peachy tone in here, I saw the more pinky tone in here. The only thing that I couldn't really find in here was the pink shimmer. So for me, if I could find at least 3 in a quad, I wanted to go ahead and swatch it for you guys. And as you're gonna see, if you're someone who already owns the Pop Zombie palette, and if you're not really interested in that shimmer in the Peach palette, I don't exactly think you need it, because you can definitely get similar looks using those 3 shadows in the Pop Zombie palette that you could get in the Peach palette and get pretty much the same look. Not saying they're exact dupes, but very close. Moving on, I also thought of the Nomad Cartagena Magica palette, because while this is a larger palette, this was getting a little bit big, but it was a theme palette. But there's a lot in here that I feel like is very close. So let me go ahead and hold these up somewhat. In here, I definitely feel like I see the yellow in here. You can see that more peachy tone here. You can see this very pretty shimmer. I kind of see it in this shade and maybe even a mix of these shades or this shade. There's a lot of shimmers in the Cartagena Magica palette that I feel like could be dupes. And then what's the other one? This pinky tone is left. And that, I mean, one of these, I feel like you could do it. So I did want to go ahead. I'm not going to swatch the whole Cartagena Magica palette from Nomad, but I'm going to swatch the colors that I think are closest to the Peach Quad so you guys can see. But this is definitely a case where if you have the Cartagena Magica palette, I feel like, especially if you mix some of the shimmers together, you pretty much already own the Peach palette. Definitely another palette that I thought was very similar to the Peach palette. Last up for the Peach palette, I thought of the Feral palette, which just surprised me because I think the Feral palette is just so such a deep color story from Menagerie Cosmetics. However, when you actually hold it up and you look for those similar colors, I kind of really thought it was easy to find them. There's that pink, which is right there. There's the more, this is darker, but there's that peachy tone. There's that lighter pink, again darker, but then there's also that yellow. So the Feral palette is like a saturated, more saturated version than the Peach palette. Definitely another comparison that I wanted to give you guys because I do think they're very similar. Those tones, those colors in the Feral palette do really remind me of the Peach palette, just a more saturated version. Okay, moving on to the Coconut palette. This is what it looks like, and the first one that I thought of because I just used it so recently was the Gimme Glow Sweet and Sticky palette. The only difference is that, you know, kind of glare out to me is that the whites in these palettes, this one's matte and then this one's a shimmer. But still, you know, that aside, I feel like you still have those mid-tone browns that are very close, then the darkest browns are very close, and then the shimmer is definitely different. Gimme Glow is definitely much more taupe, and then the Coconut DeDe Signature is a lot more bronze, and it has like a duochrome finish where it looks bronze straight up, but then when you do it to the side, it definitely definitely has a lime greenness to it. So it's definitely a much more of a special and different shade than the Gimme Go. But definitely just color-wise, looking at them, they're very, very close. And then the other palette that I thought of for comparing to the coconut palette is the Killer Purr palette from Menagerie Cosmetics. The two browns, I feel like I can find them in this palette. The shimmer is definitely like, I find the same tone, but it's not that special shade. But also too, the Killer Purr does not have a white, so that's definitely a difference. Really only 2-ish, 3. I mean, the shimmers, yes, you could say that they're similar, but they're not. Okay, so that just fell out while filming. I'm gonna have to carefully put that in after I finish this, but that was unexpected. Anyway, there were 3-ish that I found similar in the Killer Purr from the coconut palette, so that's why I wanted to include them and show you guys swatches. Hopefully I can pick that up, because I was gonna swatch that one. Okay, moving on from there, let's talk about the Avocado palette. I had a couple, surprisingly, because I love green, surprisingly I didn't have a crazy ton of them, because this bright green in the Avocado palette definitely gives this quad a very unique spin than just a grungy green palette. So the first thing I thought of when I saw that was the Tribe by Juvia's Place. I know this is discontinued, but I still wanted to show it because a lot of people still might own it. But when you open this up and actually look, there's definitely a difference with those greens. However, I'm still going to swatch it side by side because, you know, the Juvia's Place Tribe palette has that bright green, has that brown, has that dark green. The only thing it doesn't really have is that type of really bright green shimmer. But the other 3 mattes, I feel like you can definitely find it in the Tribe palette. So that's why I did want to go ahead and still swatch it out for you. Moving on, I also want to show you guys the BH Cosmetics Sweet Shot Pistachio palette swatched next to the Avocado palette. This one wasn't as close, but I definitely wanted to swatch them side by side. I mean, there's not a whole lot in here that I feel like is super close. The shimmers are beautiful, but they're different. The dark green is pretty, but both of them, I feel like they're different hues. They're close enough, but then the, you know, the bright green matte is definitely different in the BH Cosmetics Pistachio palette, and there's no brown for the other quad. So these are definitely different, but I wanted to go ahead and swatch them side by side in case you were curious. Next up, I feel like this is actually pretty close. This is Milani's Gilded Jade palette next to the Avocado palette. This, I really can easily see that dark green over there. I can see the brown. I can see the bright green. Still different, but still somewhat close, so that's why I wanted to go ahead and swatch it. I feel like this is what everyone's going to think of, but this is the Just My Luck from ColourPop. I wanted to go ahead and swatch it next to the Avocado palette. This one I can definitely see similarities in the dark green and the dark brown, but as far as the shimmer and the bright matte green, I really don't see any similarities. I mean, I'm going to swatch the closest shimmer green that I think might be kind of dupable, but there's nothing as bright as that matte green, that matte bright green in the Avocado palette in the Just My Luck palette. So they're definitely very different, but close-ish enough that I wanted to go ahead and swatch them. Okay, and last up is the Blueberry Quad. Let's see. The Blueberry Quad actually has several that we're going to be swatching today. This is the Magic Mini Palette by Juvia's Place. Now this one was getting kind of large, but I ended up wanting to go ahead and swatch. They're not going to be exact, but I definitely feel like the matte blues are going to be pretty close, but the shimmers definitely, there's just something beautiful and special and amazing about DeDe Signatures that I could not really find comparable of in my collection. Next up, I also wanted to swatch the Nomad Lake Como palette. This palette right here I thought was very comparable to the bottom half of the Lake Como palette with the Blueberry palette. Again, the shimmers are nowhere near anything like the Blueberry palette, so I'm going to swatch them just for you guys' viewing purposes and maybe just to rule that out of your collection if you're thinking, if you have the Lake Como and you're thinking it might be close. I didn't find them to be that close. The next step, I wanted to compare it to the Starry Night palette. Again, getting a little big when it comes to comparison palettes, but I did want to go ahead and show you guys because this is fairly new and it's more of a blue themed palette. So there they are side by side. This one, I definitely think you could, see some of those shimmers in there, but again, DeDe Signature, she did a fantastic job with the shimmers. They're definitely something special. So while I think they're close in these palettes, you can definitely get the same look, but there's going to be something lacking in the just amazingness and specialness of DeDe Signature's shimmers than you're going to find in the Starry Night palette. I totally forgot what it was. And last up is Nomad's Iceland palette. So this is the last one I thought of for the Blueberry palette, but like look at the blues in here. I definitely think that they're very similar. Again, shimmer wise, they're not really dupes. Like they're close, they're pretty. You can get the same feel of it, but when we're talking about like actual duping and being like super, super similar, I didn't think the blues in the Iceland palette were that close enough for me to call it. They're just similar. Okay, so those are all the comparisons that I wanted to share with you guys when we're talking about what could be similar or dupable for all of the quads in the DeDe Signature Fruit Theme palette. So at this point, now that we've talked about all those, I've shown you guys swatches, I think it is time to jump into all of the individual tutorials for this. I'm going to try to keep them short and brief, like not make them any longer than I need to, because I've already kind of gone into the quality of each of them while doing this eye look. So it's going to be more of a brief 2-3 minutes, and that's all on each one of these. And then we'll come back for my outro and my final thoughts. Okay, so I think we have come to the end of this video. I really hope it isn't too incredibly long, but again, I wanted to be informative, I wanted to be helpful, and I feel like a lot of people have already given their thoughts on these quads, so I wanted to bring a little bit of a different spin to my video, and hopefully this review is helpful for you guys. But I'm very, very grateful. I didn't say at the beginning, but DeDe did send these to me, and I'm very, very grateful for her to send them over in PR. I really do appreciate it, and I had a great time using them. Let me know how you liked it. Let me know how you like this style. Let me know if you like seeing dupes or comparable palettes that I already have in my collection. Let me know that, and I can continue to do that with newer palettes in the future, just to give you guys the most information and the most, helpful information that I can and I'm able to give you guys in these videos. But yeah, that is gonna do it for me. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And yeah, if you want to continue getting daily content from me, I'm over on Instagram. I'm LadyKatie92. And with all that said, I will see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye.